Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Barron, your host, and welcome to my podcast, That's Life, I Swear. Is it going to be Groundhog Day come November of 2024? Are we really seeing a potential rematch with President Biden, and my face is orange and yours is not, Trump? Let's jump into this. Thanks but no thanks is how the American public sees the potential final candidates in the upcoming 2024 presidential election. As President Biden announced his re-election campaign on April 27th, he finds himself in a very vulnerable position. A recent NBC News polling calls out that the numbers for him are not that great. His disapproval rating is at 54%, while 70% of Americans say they don't want him to run again. Now, with those numbers, you would think his campaign should be politically dead on arrival. But then here's the problem for the Republicans. 60% of voters also don't want Donald Trump to run again. When asked amongst GOP voters, the data reflects that 63% support Trump, and they see that the recent court indictments happening and coming up are all politically motivated. Of course they are. That said, those who still can't think believe they must support Trump. Now, the American public is sending a very clear message to both parties. They want someone new to choose from in the 2024 election. The various data poll collections sum it up very well. The public does not want either guy. However, it looks increasingly likely the country will get precisely just that. Now, why does this matter? One possible factor behind this sentiment is a desire for fresh leadership and new ideas. Biden and Trump are well-known political figures who have been in the public eye for many years. And some voters feel that it's time for a change and that the country would benefit from having someone new in the Oval Office. Another possible factor is the contentious nature of the 2020 presidential election. The race was marked by allegations of voter fraud, political polarization, a coup on the U.S. Capitol. Some voters may be looking for a more unifying figure to lead the country in the future. Now, here are some things to know. Age is a big factor. You ask the question and people say right away, these guys are just too old. Come Inauguration Day, Trump would be 78 and Biden would be 82. There's also the fear that if Biden were reelected, his health would be of high concern, which means there is a high possibility that Vice President Kamala Harris will become president. And this is something people just don't want. The American public wants a change in leadership. They want someone younger, a fresh perspective to be brought to the table. And lastly, some fear that if Trump were elected, his term in office would be based on nothing but revenge against those who opposed him. In short, turn on you don't like me chaos machine again. Now there's another takeaway here, and that's the abortion issue hasn't gone away. Recently, the Supreme Court upheld the Food and Drug Administration regulations that permits easy access to the abortion drug mifepristone, at least for now. This recent approval of the drug has energized voters. That said, another NBC News poll asked people's views on abortion, and the results were very clear. 58% say abortion access should be legal, while the other 38% say abortion access should be illegal. Now get this one. Among the 43% who say abortion is a single issue that's driving them to the polls, they believe that abortion access should be legal by a 65 to 34% margin. That said, the energy of the abortion issue is clearly on the Democratic side. So what happens if voters are faced with Groundhog Day? Trump is effectively Biden's get-out-of-jail-free card. The former president is the one Republican candidate who can save Biden from the political consequences that have occurred during his term, such as the worst inflation in 40 years, high gas prices, the raise in food prices. Well, to be fair, many of the consequences President Biden has had to deal with are ramifications stemming from COVID-19. Now, that doesn't make it like he hasn't done anything wrong. He's made some mistakes. But let's face it, Trump would have had to deal with the same problems, albeit knowing the results might be different with his past track record. Do the math. Some believe Biden's record should doom any president's chances of winning re-election. However, if Trump is the Republican nominee, Biden likely gets away with it. By contrast, if Republicans nominate someone else, and I mean almost anyone else, then the GOP can turn Biden's 54% disapproval rating into an albatross around his neck. It shouldn't take another election loss for Republicans to understand this. Swing voters have already sent this message to the GOP twice. In 2020, despite a record 56% of registered voters telling Gallup that they were better off under Trump than they had been 4 years earlier, Trump still lost. Why? Because he just alienates too many people with his juvenile behavior. Voters liked Trump's policies, but they didn't like him. In 2022, Biden turned in the best first midterm performance of any president since John F. Kennedy by turning the big red wave into a pink puddle. Now, the Democrats didn't do so well because voters approved of Biden. It was because they disapproved of Trump's hand-picked House and Senate candidates who lost many races that were, frankly, winnable. Face it, Trump is political kryptonite for the GOP. That's the bad news for the Republicans. But there is some good news. First, while 41% of respondents in the NBC News poll say they will definitely vote or probably vote for Biden, 47% say they will definitely or probably vote for the Republican nominee, which means the election is highly winnable. Second, while nearly 70% of Republican primary voters say they stand behind Trump, even while dealing with current and future indictments, only 46% in that same poll say that if the primary were held today, they would vote for Trump. Third, while clear majorities don't want either Trump or Biden, Democrats are headed to nominate Biden. That means if Republicans nominate someone other than Trump, these guys have a viable shot at winning the election. So to the Republicans, I say this: you have a choice. Pick a candidate without Trump's baggage who can make Biden own his 54% disapproval rating. Or tattoo on your forehead, "Yes, I voted for stupid," a third time. Now, what can we learn from this story? What's the takeaway? Regardless of the reasons behind the public's sentiment, if the American people do not want either Biden or Trump to run again in 2024, it could have a significant implication for the United States government as a whole. A lack of enthusiasm for either candidate could lead to lower voter turnout, which could ultimately impact the outcome of the election. It could signal a shift in the political landscape, with voters looking for alternative candidates who can bring a fresh perspective to the table. Ultimately, the American public will have to weigh the pros and cons of each candidate and decide who they believe is best suited to lead the country in the years ahead. There is one more thing to consider. With both sides not wanting either Biden or Trump, this could be that golden opportunity for an independent to jump into the race and win. Think about it. Well, there you go. That's life, I swear. For further information regarding the material covered in this episode, I invite you to visit my website, which you can find on either Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, for show notes, movie information clips, and the episode transcript. As always, I thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. See you soon.